Well, I wanted to take a few moments to look at what the actual box office turned out to be after the full weekend, as far as Mufasa and Sonic 3 went. And I wasn't surprised by what I saw, and I'm sure you weren't either. A lot of other sites have reported on the fact that Mufasa got its clock cleaned by the blue blur. And that makes a whole lot of sense. Sonic was always going to win here. It had a decent amount of word of mouth, and Mufasa had no buzz whatsoever, despite all the pub that got thrown into it at the last minute. And the trades were already softening the ground for this film, knowing full well that Barry Jenkins delivered a dud. They'd seen it and they'd heard about it, and it didn't get better over time. There was not a lot they could do. Anthropomorphized photorealistic animals just are still too uncanny valley for a lot of people. And this is, of course, on the heels of a film that I didn't think was up to snuff of over the original animated film. I thought the quote unquote live action Lion King left a lot to be desired, and doubling down on that formula without, well, good music or good story and breaking some of the lore was definitely going to be a problem. But it proved out at the box office. We need to go through it because Disney's actually in a full panic mode. They are distraught over the fact that their 2025 film schedule could literally be DOA, hence the title on today's video. And let's dive into it, starting with how we got there and where we are before we get into the future. Because, boy, that future doesn't look good, and you're going to want to stick around for all the duds that will be fun, I guess, to steal from that park place. Let's take a look at Sonic the Hedgehog 3 right here. We've got that headed to a $9 million Monday, still beating Mufasa with a $7 million Monday, still up by $2 million on a Monday. Not a lot of people inspired before the Christmas holiday to show up and take a look at it. Wicked is still sitting at 4 million, not big numbers, but it's something. And some people have gone to their second or third viewing of this particular film. Good for them. I'm glad so many people have found enjoyment in something that's been on Broadway forever and ever. I mean, hey, let's go see it on a film in an inferior way and in two parts so we can pay for it twice. I'm not sure where that was decided upon, but it is what it is. So let's move on to, of course, the real situation. You see, according to the numbers, you got a $60 million opening weekend from Sonic the Hedgehog 3. That's a pretty good number. It's right in the ballpark of where the expectations were, over 55 million, under 65 million, right in the middle. You ended up with Mufasa opening on even more screens, and this should be terrifying for Disney. In 4,100 screens, which is about where they go when they're going for the max, they only ended up with 35,400,000, and they had a much lower number per theater earnings at 8,000, almost half as much. In fact, it's almost half as much across the board, although they eked in a little extra at the end when it really should be somewhere probably around 34. I heard as low as 32. We definitely have the revisions in, so let's pretend these numbers are accurate. And I think also on its last legs, and this is another problem for Disney, is Moana 2, where it ended up with a very small $13 million pull on its fourth weekend. So it's 1 month in. It's not really going to pull much more after this holiday week, after the Christmas week. And I don't see where it'll rebound in any way. It's quite possible that Moana will be disappointing and well below that $1 billion number. It might also have Wicked sitting there as well. Ultimately, Gladiator is done. It's been done for a while. Craven the Hunter is done. It was done before it released. And Red One is done because it's been streaming. Not bad for $100 million almost. And of course, it went to streaming really, really quickly, but not quite as quickly, at least I don't think, as our friend, The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim. That's right. You heard it right. After 2 weeks in theaters and only $17 million in total domestically, that's headed to streaming service near you. But we need to move on because this just tells us about, well, obviously, we learned about what happened today at the box office. Now let's learn about what's going to happen in the future. You see, Disney actually has several films in 2025, starting with a February 14th release. Happy Valentine's Day, ladies. Captain America Brave New World, a film I believe has had at least 4 shots at test screenings in various different forms with multiple reshoots, and in fact an entire reshoot, if you believe what's been said, which I do. In fact, I know for a fact it got a full reshoot. They did act 1, 2, and 3, the 3 things they had to reshoot, in addition to many different action scenes and fill-in pieces and things to fix the storyline and a whole lot of continuity problems. This film is still a disaster, still not going to do very well, and it still was something that was forced during Black History Month for a reason. Then you've got Snow White coming up the following month, 5 weeks after the failure of Captain America Brave New World. Without Captain America, you will have Snow White. Not Snow White in the Seven Dwarfs, not Disney's or Walt Disney's Snow White, just Snow White, a quote unquote live action adaptation of the 1937 Disney animated film Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In no way is that an accurate statement. It's a complete lie from beginning to end, including in how it was put together and with absolutely no shot for shot representation of the original film, which would have been the only way that you could do this successfully. Therefore, not just because of the actress, but in large part because of the actress Rachel Ziegler, this is set to fail spectacularly. Nobody wants girl boss Snow White. Moving on, we've got Thunderbolts. No, not Thundercats. Thunderbolts with an asterisk. Why? Well, because they're going to be missing part of Thunderbolts. And it's a group of supervillains. Well, they're not really supervillains. They're not really all that bad. They're more anti-heroes than anything. They are recruited to go on missions for the government. And this thing is a hot mess 3 ways to Sunday, but it is the most promising, believe it or not, of the Marvel releases coming out early in the year. This one is set to release May 2nd, 2025. Of course, then you have, oh, goodness gracious, Whoopi Goldberg. Not a lot of people's favorite right now. Disney's in big trouble with this one because of the unpopularity of The View and her presence on it. Keke Palmer, who does not have a lot of positive pub, basically took down a Bill Murray film all by herself. And Wendy McKenna, who I don't know who that is, nor do I care. I do know that this is the 3rd installment of the franchise, something that I enjoyed the first one of, thought that the second one was passable. I do not think Sister Act 3 is going to do well in films. Probably also DOA. Lilo and Stitch. There we go. This is Disney's chance at a winner. Coming straight out of Disney's animation, a remake of the classic animation, which I think people are tired of. Live action not really earning what it used to earn. And it looks like it could be lovely and fun. We'll just have to see. But at least based on the teaser we got from the D23 event, I think that was in Anaheim, lots of people are pretty stoked. And I think it has a decent chance to be the best of the bunch of the Disney animated classic, let's say. Alio, this thing has been trying to come out for years. It was supposed to be out a year ago. We were supposed to see this, I believe, sometime in 2024. Could have been even the end of 2023. This thing has been coming for a long, long time. And I don't think anybody's very excited about it. Again, it's another Pixar project that basically had to be retooled at the very least, and maybe had to completely re-overhauled at the most. You're going to get all of the things that Disney loves, but maybe toned down in a way. I'm not sure you'll have to dodge as much identitarianism, but you're going to be basically dodging some ham-fisted messaging at the very least. And that's due out in June 13th. Of 2025. Fantastic Four, the first steps, which are baby steps, and they all seem to be in a reverse direction, taking Marvel the wrong direction and going back to identitarianism. This film is reeking of it, and unless they do some major changes to the script, well, you're just going to have to put up with it. Following along the lines of a comic plot that didn't, well, weather very well, and let's try that again. Focusing on a plot that was quickly abandoned by Marvel originally, turning the well-known Silver Surfer into the female or his wife's version of the same character. This comic run didn't last very long because it wasn't very popular, and we ended up with another Silver Surfer that was male, or perhaps even the same one. We've seen this story before, or at least part of it. In the previous Fantastic Four franchises from Fox, I hope they figure it out this time. I guess second or third time's a charm. This is not likely to do very well. Pedro Pascal's going to get his stink all over it. Matt Shackman is starting to prove himself as less than adequate as a leader or director. Vanessa Kirby's probably the best thing in this, and Joseph Quinn's getting more credit than he probably deserves. The only one in this that might be amazing is going to be The Thing. And I'm kind of excited for that, to be fair. This is releasing on July 25th, 2025 from Marvel, likely to be DOA, but maybe it'll perform halfway decent. I don't see it making a lot of money. Friday, there's a film nobody wanted to see, and you're getting it anyway with a very plasticized Lindsay Lohan and a dinosaur in, well, Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm not sure that you're going to find this one performing the way the first one did, but I guess we'll see. I think this film is likely DOA because it's been too long between the two, and there's really no connective tissue between the generations, which is a problem Disney's going to struggle with for the next 2 or 3 generations because they pushed out the parents and grandparents that would have provided access to all of the older material. Disney, you did it to yourself. Moving on, we've got Tron Ares. And as much as I like the soundtrack for Tron Legacy, Tron 3 or Tron Ares doesn't look like it's going to do very well. The plot being a highly sophisticated program, Ares is sent from the digital world into the real world on a very dangerous mission. What kind of touchstones will this have with the previous franchise films? Well, we know for certain that Bridges will be returning. To what extent and in what regard, we don't really know, but it's something to be excited about. And you can not only see him, but hear his voice throughout. Jodie Turner Smith will be leading this with Gillian Anderson, and it's going to be very heavily laden with, well, Jared Leto. Coming out on October 10th, 2025, from Walt Disney Pictures. This will not measure up to the original cult classic, nor will it have the same kind of soundtrack as the second film, but it'll have a decent sound regardless, as Trent Reznor steps into place to replace Daft Punk. And finally, we get around to film 13, Zootopia. That's right. A brave rabbit cop, Judy Hopps, and her friend, the fox Nick Wilde, team up again to crack a new case. That's right. This film will be one of the winners for Disney, and it comes not quite soon enough in the year, but maybe enough to rescue, well, or save face, I guess, for Disney, November 25th, 2025. And here we have a number 152. For some reason, not 15, and nobody knows why, but we'll ignore that being an IMDb error and just jump into 14, which may be a winner, may be a loser. It's a sequel to 2022's Way of Water, which for some reason people went to go see. This one's all about fire because we already did water. So let's do fire. And we're going to get another climate lecture from the likes of James Cameron. Zoe Saldana returns, Kate Winslet and Giovanni Ribisi also returning. This will be interesting, I believe. But December 19th, 2025, this is a reclamation project that may or may not work. We may see the end of Avatar with this film, and probably a very whiny James Cameron if that does happen. After that, we're into 2026, and well, it'll be the end. Last but not least, just a quick reminder that if you didn't hear earlier, Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim is heading into homes after the 14-day theatrical window. 2 weeks. Just a rights holder. They've said as much, and yet they didn't even make anything worth seeing. And now that nobody's seen it in the theater, I don't think that many people will see it on streaming. Let me know if your mileage varies. I would like to know if you see this on purpose. A character that didn't exist in name, just in description, and wasn't even worth noting beyond the appendices, that they turned into a full-fledged girl boss that, well, you can enjoy. Anyway, you can now understand why Iger and the executives over at Disney are actually in full panic mode, or at least I think it's easy to understand that. There's been nothing of substance this year in theaters. There have been 3 films that performed decently for Disney, but ultimately this next year, 2025, is going to be poor performance everywhere. If you have a different thought, let me know down in the comments section below. Double check you're still subscribed to the channel. A lot of people got unsubscribed while I was working over at the Fest for the 3 or 4 days that I was away. I apologize. Sometimes I have to do other things, and we'll get back to regular material on the daily, sometimes more than once or twice a day. Again, while you're down there giving me all your thoughts and comments, hit the thumbs up button, share this particular video out there, and as always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands because it's good hygiene, and it's the holidays, it's Christmas. You gotta wash your hands, keep everybody safe. And until next time, see ya, really.